Okay, so now we are going to begin our decrease rows. Okay, so as you can see here, we have reached the maximum width and height of the graph. So now we are going to start making our rows smaller. So go ahead and draw the line for your next row for row 26. Okay, and I'm just going to make a note here for myself so that I can remind you guys. So for row 25, we had 25. So for row 26, you're going to have 24 squares. Okay. All right, so here's what you're going to do. Normally, when we start a new graph, we chain 6 to make our first square. We are not going to do that. Here's what you're going to do. Turn your work. Oops, fix my hook here. Okay. You are going to slip stitch your way up the side of this square here, and your first square is going to be made here. So this part is very important. You want to slip stitch in all 3 of those double crochets. You have 3 double crochet stitches. You need to slip stitch in the top of all 3. If you don't take the time to do that, your graph will be too tight. Okay? You want to slip stitch your way up so that you have enough yarn so that when you try to make your manipulate your graph into a square, you'll have enough yarn to do that, okay? If you pull it too tight, it will look weird, and I have done that. So, okay, there's your first slip stitch. Insert your hook into the next stitch, pull that yarn through, and then in the 3rd double crochet, pull the yarn through, okay? And from here, as always, now you have this chain 3, slip stitch again into that space like you normally do, and then from here, you'll chain 3, 1, 2, 3, and then make 3 double crochet in that same space. 1, 1, 2, 3 double crochet. So we just made this tile. So let me flip this back around so you can see from the front here, from this point of view. You made slip stitches up the side in those 3 double crochet, and then you slip stitched into that chain 3 and made your 3 double crochet this way, okay? And you'll do that for all the decrease rows, which will make sure that your graph isn't getting any larger. So we just made that first square, so now we need to make 1, 2, 3, 4 more for a total of 5 blue squares. And you'll just continue on as normal. So number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, go ahead and mark off those 5 blue squares. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now we're going to make 1, 2, 3, 4 white squares. One, 2, 3, 4. Go ahead and mark off. There's 4 white squares. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now you're going to attach your black yarn. Keep your white yarn in the front. Attach the black yarn, and you're just going to make 1 black square. Hey, bud. No, your head feels okay. How are you feeling?
I have to go poop.
Okay, go ahead. All right, go ahead, buddy. All right. Okay, here we have our 1 black square. And now I'm going to go to my yarn here and remove some white yarn from the ball from the other end. So you know you have your working yarn that comes from the middle. Well, the other end of the yarn, I'm going to just remove some for this middle portion here so that I'm not having to work the yarn back and forth just like I explained earlier in the video. So hopefully that will be enough. Okay. So I have my black yarn on the side I'm working on, my side here. Okay, and then I'm going to attach that white yarn that I just cut, and I'm going to make 1, 2, 3 white squares. Okay, that's 1. 2. 3. Okay, go ahead and mark off the black square and the 3 white squares. 1, 2, 3. Now you're going to make 3 brown squares. One, 2, 3. Mark off your 3 brown squares. 1, 2, 3. Now you're making 3 white squares. One, 2, 3, 4, mark off those 3 white squares. 1, 2, 3, and you're making 1 brown square. Okay, and then I had cut my blue yarn earlier, so I need to reattach. So let me go ahead and mark off that brown square, and then 1, 2, 3, 4 blue squares. So you shouldn't have to do this if you were able to keep your yarn straighter than I did, but I am reattaching simply because I had cut my yarn. I couldn't deal with the tangles. But go ahead and make your 4 blue squares. One, two, three, four. Okay. Now, actually, go ahead, mark off those 4. Okay. So this is row 26 now, and in row 26 you should now have 24 squares because we decreased it by 1. Okay. Go ahead and draw the line for row 27. And in row 27, we're going to end up with 23. Okay, so here up at the top, you're starting row 27 with 1, 2, 3 blue squares. So again, we are not making, we are not increasing anymore. So we're not starting the row with a chain 6. What we're going to do is slip stitch into that chain 3 space, and then we are going to turn our work. And in each of those 1, 2, 3 double crochets, you're going to slip stitch. So you're going to move your yarn along so that it doesn't get pulled too tight. Okay? 2 and 3. Okay? You don't want that to be too tight. There we go. And now you're going to slip stitch into this chain 3 space, and you're going to make your 3 double crochet, which makes your first square for row 27. There you go, 1, and then just continue on like normal. You're making 2 more blue squares. Two. 3. Okay. Go ahead and mark off those 3 blue squares. 1, 2, 3. Now you're going to make 2 brown. 2. Go ahead and mark those off. 1, 2, 1, 2. Now you're going to make 1, 2, 3 white squares. One, 2, 3. Okay. And now 1, 2 brown squares, which is going to be the last 2 squares for the eye patch, which is awesome because then we're done with this brown here in the middle. One, 2. Okay, let's take a look here. Okay, so we can mark off those 3 white squares. Ooh. All right, 1, 2, 3, and then the 2 brown squares. 1, 2. Now we're going to make 1, 2, 3 white squares. And I'm going to cut this brown yarn because I don't need it anymore here. And the white that I had cut off here for this section, this is the last row where I'm going to need this part separated because the eye patch is done, and actually it worked out really well. I must have eyeballed pretty good because I was done with that part anyway. And now we're done with the brown. So now we're going to make 3 white squares. One, 2, 3. Okay. Mark off those 3 squares. 1, 2, 3. Now we're going to make 2 block squares. Here we go. 2 black squares. Mark those off. And then we're going to make our 4 white squares. That's 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, mark off those 4 white squares. 1, 2, 3, 4, and then you're going to make 1, 2, 3, 4 blue squares to finish off row 27. One, 2, 3, 4. Okay, let's go ahead and slip stitch into that chain 3 space. Turn your work. We are ready to begin the next row. But let's go ahead and work on our graph here. So let's mark off those 4, 1, 2, 3, 4 squares that you just made. For row 27, you should have 23 squares if you count them diagonal. Okay, go ahead and make your line for row 28. We're working up. At the end of row 28, you should have 22 stitches. And I'm going to count mine real quick to make sure I'm on track. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, 20, 23. Awesome. Okay. So for our next row, we're going to begin with 1, 2, 3, 4 blue squares. Okay, so here I'm ready to slip stitch so I can move my yarn from here to here. One, 2, 3. Okay, now you're going to slip stitch into that chain 3 space and make your first square. Two, 3, 4. Okay. Okay, mark off those 4 blue squares. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now we're going to make 1, 2, 3, 4 white squares. One, 2, 3, 4. Okay, mark off those 4 white squares. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now you're going to make 2 black squares. One, oops, I don't know what I did there. Okay, 2. Okay, mark off those 2 black squares. Move that dot over. 1, 2. Okay, now we're going to make 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 white squares. I don't know if I'll have enough white yarn on this end. My skein of yarn is attached down here, which ideally I would have had it flip-flopped. I didn't think about the fact that this part would open up into the rest here, but I only have to make it 2 more rows, so we'll see. Otherwise, I'll just cut my yarn and reattach. No big deal. I don't know if that makes sense or not, but the more you do this, the more you'll get the hang of it and understand. Like it'll make it easier to look ahead to see when you're going to need what color yarn. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay, let's go ahead and mark off those 8 white squares. One, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay, now we're going to make 1 brown square. Okay. Get this untangled here. Okay. And then 1, 2, 3 blue squares. 2, 3. Okay, go ahead and slip stitch. Okay, and you are done with row 28, and you should have 22 stitches. Go ahead and count them just to make sure. I'm going to mark off that brown square that I made, and then 1, 2, 3 blue. And I'm going to draw my line for row 29. At the end of row 29, we'll have 21 stitches. And we're going to begin our row with 1, 2, 3 blue. So go ahead and turn your work. Okay. And slip stitch across in those 3 double crochet. 1, 2, 3. Okay, and then slip stitch into that chain 3 space, make your 3 chains and your 3 double crochet to make your first square. Okay, and we have 2 more, so that's 1, 2, 3. Okay, 1, 2, 3. Go ahead and mark off those 3 blue squares. Now you're going to make 1 brown square. Okay, and now I'm not going to have enough yarn for the white square, so I'm going to just cut it from down here. I'm going to try to leave enough white yarn at the bottom here to go this row and then work my way back. So after this row I won't need the black anymore, so I want to try to leave enough to work from here to here and back up, and then I'll pick up the working yarn here. I hope that makes sense. Sorry if that's confusing. So I'm just cutting off some yarn for the bottom portion, and then I'm going to move my skein of yarn up to where I'm currently at. Okay, so now we need to make 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 white squares, okay? So I'm attaching my white yarn. Here's 1. 2. 3. 4. 5. 6, 7, 8. Okay. Go ahead and mark off those 8 white squares. Okay. I forgot to do the brown. Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Now we're going to make that last black square. Now we're done with the black. Okay. Then I'm actually going to trim it, get it out of the way. Okay, and now we're going to make 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 white squares. One, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay. So go ahead and mark off those 5 white squares. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and now you're going to finish your row with 3 blue squares. Sorry. Okay. One, 2, 3. All right, go ahead and make your slip stitch to that chain 3 space. And you are done with row 29, and you should have 21 stitches, or 21 squares. Okay, I'm going to mark off my 1, 2, 3 blue squares here. And I'm going to draw my line for row 30. We are working up. At the end of row 30, you will have 20 stitches. We're going to start row 30 with 1, 2, 3 blue squares. So turn your work and make those 3 slip stitches to move your yarn over. And you're going to slip stitch in that chain 3 space. And make your 3 blue squares. 1, My yarn was getting caught in the drawer. Two. Three. Okay, mark off those 3 blue squares. 1, 2, 3. And now you're going to make 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 white squares. So the rest of this should go fairly quickly because we don't have to worry about doing many color changes, and because each row there's one less square. So this is the fun part. Okay, so I attached my white yarn, or I didn't attach it, I switched to my white. It was already there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 'See here. I'm going to just keep going with this. Okay. So that is 2, 4, 6, 7. 8. 9. 10. 11. 12. 13, and then I don't remember how many we need. One more. And 14. Awesome. All right, go ahead and mark off those 14 white squares. One, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. Now you have 1 brown square and then 2 blue. Okay, there's the one brown. And then make your 2 blue. One, 2, 3. I was counting my double crochet. There are 2 blue squares, sorry, that confused you. Okay, go ahead and slip stitch to join. You are done with row 20, or excuse me, you are done with row 30, and you should have 20 stitches. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, 20. Perfect. I'm going to mark off those last stitches here. Okay. Go ahead and draw your lines for row 31. At the end of row 31, you'll have 19 squares. And we are starting our row with 1, 2 blue squares. Okay, so you're going to turn your work and you're going to slip stitch in those 3 double crochet. One, two. Okay, so I made my 2 blue squares. Now you're going to make 1 brown square, and this is going to be the last brown square for this ear. So after this, I'll cut the yarn so it's not getting in my way. Okay. Go ahead and mark off your 2 blue squares and your brown square. Blue, brown. Okay, and then I'm going to trim this brown so it's not in my way. And then I'm going to make 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 white squares. One, two, three, four, five, six, seven, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 'oops. Okay, I ran out of the yarn I had, so I'm actually going to undo this real quick. So I was at 12, and I had my working yarn here. Nope. Where is it? Here it is. Okay. Sorry about this. Okay. So 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12. Okay, so now I need to make one more. So I ran out of white yarn here, so I'm going to attach this white, and I'll be good from now on because this is my from the main scheme. Okay, great. 13. Okay, go ahead and mark off those 13 white squares. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. And now you're going to make 3 blue squares. One, 2, 3. Okay, go ahead and join. And mark off those last 3 squares. We just completed row 31 and you should have 19 stitches. Go ahead and draw the line for row 32. After row 32, you'll have 18 stitches. Okay, we're going to begin with 2 blue squares. So turn your work. Slip stitch to move your yarn. Oops, to move your yarn over. And slip stitch to start the first square. And you're making 2 blue squares. One, 2, go ahead and mark those off. 1, 2, okay. And now you're going to make 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 white squares. phone again, sorry. So I've done 2. Three. 4. 5. 6. 7. 6, 7, yep. 8. 9. 10. 11. 12, and I think I need one more. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12. Yep, one more. $13. All right, and now, is that correct? Nope, I think I need one more. Let me count this here. So we had 2 blue. Oh, you know what? Did I make a mistake? Something's attached here. No, I think that's okay. All right, let me count this. Sorry. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. Okay, so I need one more white square. Okay, there we have 14. And now I'm going to make my 2 blue squares. One, 2. And go ahead and slip stitch to join. You are now done with row 32, and you should have 18 stitches. Okay, go ahead and draw your line for row 33. We are working our way back down. At the end of row 33, we will have 17 squares. We are starting row 33 with 2 blue squares. Okay. So We're going to go ahead and slip stitch to move our yarn over. And then slip stitch into that chain 3 space and make your first blue square. Okay, 1 more blue square. Two. Okay, now we are going to make 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 white squares. Okay, so we're going to switch to white. That's 1. Two. Three. 4. 5. 6. 7. 8. 9. 10. 11. Okay, so I have 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 11. Okay, let's mark off those 11 white squares. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Now we're going to attach our brown yarn and make 2 brown squares. Okay, it's 1. 2. remember when we weave in our ends later, we'll tighten up all of those loose ends. Mark off those 2 brown squares. And now we are left with 2 blue squares for this row. It's 1, and 2. Go ahead and slip stitch to join. Okay, we are done with row 33. Okay, go ahead and count your squares. You should have 17 squares for row 33. All right, let's go ahead and draw our line for row 34. We are working up. Okay, we're going to begin row 34 with 1 blue square followed by 1, 2, 3 brown squares. Okay, so you're going to go ahead and slip stitch to move your yarn over. And I'm making 1 blue square. Sorry if that was off camera. Okay, and now 3 brown squares. One, sorry, my brown yarn got a little tangled there. Okay. Two. Okay, so I have my 1 blue square and my 3 brown squares. I'll go ahead and mark those off. And now we're going to make 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 white squares. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 11, 8, 9, 10. Okay, go ahead and mark off those 10 white squares. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay, and now 2 blue squares left. One, and 2. All right, and go ahead and join. Okay, and you are now done with row 34. Go ahead and count those squares and make sure that you have 17. Okay, let's draw the line for the next row. For row 35, we are working down, and at the end of row 35, we will have 16 stitches. Okay, we are starting with 2 blue squares. And actually, let's count the white. 2 blue followed by 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 white squares. Okay, go ahead and slip stitch to move that yarn over. One, 2. Okay, and I actually forgot how many white squares. I'm sorry. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 white squares. Okay. All right, now you're going to make your 8 white squares. One, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. Okay, 2, 4, 6, 8. Go ahead and mark off your 8 white squares. So I have my 2 blue, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Now I'm going to make 1, 2, 3, 4 brown squares and 1 blue square. Okay, here, now, my yarn is here and I need it here. So here's what I'm gonna do. Rather than cutting and reattaching, I'm going to use just enough yarn. I'm gonna sort of work it down so that I have enough yarn to work over this chain 3 space without pulling the brown too tight. Okay, so I'm gonna attach the brown here, leaving it just loose enough that I can then make a square here and then a square here working over this brown yarn, okay? So here's what that'll look like. I'm gonna hold that there. Okay, brown is a little looser. I'm gonna pull it through. Okay. So I'm going to leave the brown loose enough so that I can work over it again when I get up here. If you want to just cut the yarn and then reattach down there, you can certainly do that. This is how I'm going to do it. I wouldn't be doing this the entire time, but I think for 1 square it's fine, okay? So here, leave it like that. Chain your 3. 1, 2, 3. Make your first brown square. Okay, tighten up the weight. Okay, so I made my first brown square. This is what it looks like from the back. Okay, so this yarn's kind of loose because I am going to crochet over it to make my next brown square. Okay, so you're going to slip stitch, but make sure this loop is over top. That way you're working over that extra yarn. Chain 3. And then you're going to work over that yarn and of course around that chain 3. 2, 3. This is what it looks like from this side and then from this side, okay? So you can see here, maybe I could have even pulled it a little tighter, but I think it's fine. Okay, and now I'm going to continue on and I'm making 4 total brown squares. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, and now I'm going to switch to blue for my last square of the row. Okay, go ahead and slip stitch to join. Okay. We are done with row 35. Go ahead and mark off those 4 brown squares and your 1 blue square. Count your squares and make sure that you have 15. You should have 15 squares for row 35. Okay. Let me count mine for you. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. Okay. Let's draw our line for row 36. We are working up. Okay, for row 36, we are starting with 1 blue square and then 1, 2, 3, 4 brown squares. Okay, so go ahead and slip stitch to move your yarn over. Okay, and slip stitch in that chain space and make your first square, your one blue square. Okay, now you're going to switch to brown and make 4 brown squares. That's 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, go ahead and mark those off on your graph, on your chart. So 1 blue square, 1, 2, 3, 4 brown. Okay, now we're going to do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 white squares, followed by 2 blue squares. Okay, so you're switching to white. One, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. All right, and now you're switching to blue, and you're making 2 blue squares. One, 2. Go ahead and slip stitch, and then mark off those squares on your graph. 7 white, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 2 blue. At the end of row 36, you'll have 14 squares. So go ahead and count those just to check, and then draw your line for row 37. We are working down. Okay. All right, you're going to start row 37 with 2 blue squares, followed by 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 white squares. Go ahead and slip stitch to move your yarn over. Sorry, I have to plug my phone in. 1, 2, 3. That's 1. 2, and now we're making our 6 white squares. One, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay. All right, go ahead and mark those squares off on your graph. So we had 2 blue, 1, 2, followed by 6 white. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Now we are going to make 4 blue squares and, 4 brown squares and 1 blue square. One, 2, 3, 4. Okay. Switch to blue and then make your last square for the row. Okay, go ahead and slip stitch to join. All right. We are done with row 37 and you should have 13 squares. Go ahead and mark off those 4 brown squares in the blue. 3, 4, and 1. And let's draw our line for row 38. We are working up. Okay, we are going to start row 38 with 1 blue square and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 brown squares. Go ahead and slip stitch to move your yarn over. Okay, so I'm 1 blue, and now I'm making 5 brown squares. 2. Three. 4. Okay, I'm going to have to move my white yarn up 1. I know I haven't really been carrying my yarn along, but I didn't want to cut it just for 1 square. So because I need to make 5 brown squares, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to slip stitch my brown yarn like I normally would, but I'm going to make sure that I work over top this white working yarn because I'm going to need that for the next square. Okay, so I'm basically bringing the white yarn up with me so that it's where I need it to be for my next square. So go ahead and make your last brown square, and you're working right over that white yarn and the white chain 3. Okay, you can pull it, but don't pull it too tight. You don't want it too tight because otherwise you'll have it like tugged up in your graph. You want everything to be nice and loose, but you don't want the yarn like hanging out. So just like that. Okay, so I did my 1 blue square, my 5 brown. Let's mark those off. 1 blue and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 brown. Now we are going to use our white for 1, 2, 3, 4. So 4 white squares and then 2 blue, and then we are done with the white. Okay, let's go ahead and switch to white. Make 4 squares. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. Go ahead and trim the white yarn so that it's not getting in your way from here on out. And now you're going to make 2 blue squares. Okay, and I'm actually going to need more blue yarn. So I'm going to go to my skein of yarn and unravel some blue. I'm only going to need enough for a few rows because we are almost done with the brown as well, and then we can just use the blue from the skein here. Okay, so that should be enough. So I'm not using that. It's not long enough. Attach my new blue. Okay, 1, 2, 3. One, 2. All right, and don't worry, you can tighten all of this up. You just have to pull those yarn ends. Okay, all right, go ahead and slip stitch to join. Okay. Go ahead and mark off those 4 white squares. 1, 2, 3, 4, and your 2 blue. 1, 2. Okay, we are now done with row 38, and you should have 12 squares. Go ahead and check that. Then draw your line for row 39. We are working our way down. Okay, for row 39, we are going to make 2 blue squares followed by 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 brown and 1 blue. So 2 blue, 8 brown, 1 blue. Okay, go ahead and slip stitch to work your yarn over. Sorry, it's hanging off my table here. Okay. That's 1. 2. Okay, now I am going to go cut the brown and move it down. Just going to cut it and then reattach up here because that would be too far to move it. I don't think that I could do it neatly enough. Okay, so go ahead and attach your brown yarn. And you're making 8 brown squares. One, 2, 3. Got snagged on my paper there. 4. 5. 6. 7. 8. Okay, and now you're going to make 1 blue square. Go ahead and slip stitch to join. Okay, and we are done with row 39. You should have 11 squares. Let's go ahead and mark those off. We started with 2 blue, 8 brown, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and ended with 1 blue square. Let's go ahead and draw our line for row 40. Okay, now we're going to start with one blue square, followed by 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 brown squares, and end with 2 blue. Okay, you're going to slip stitch to move your yarn over. Oh, I think I skipped one. 1, 2, 3. Okay. Okay. One. And we're switching to brown, making 7 brown squares. 2. 1, 2. I think I counted that a little early. Three. 4. 4, 5. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 6. And we're doing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So one more. Okay. Switching to blue, and you're making 2 blue squares. Okay, go ahead and join. Okay. You are done with row 40. So we're going to mark those squares off. We started with 1 blue, followed by 7 brown. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And we ended with 2 blue. You should have 10 squares for row 40. Now this is exciting. Row 41, let's go ahead and draw our line. We're working our way down. This is the last row where we'll be using that brown yarn. So the end goes really fast because you're just using one color. At the end of row 41, you're going to have 9 squares. We are going to start with 1, 2, 3 blue squares, followed by 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 brown, and then 1 blue. Okay, go ahead and slip stitch to move that yarn over. And again, you're making 3 blue squares. So this is different. We have been just making 2 at the beginning. One, Okay, now once again, I still need to make one more blue square, but I need this brown square up here because I need it after my next blue square. So I'm gonna carry it up, so watch. I insert my hook like I'm going to slip stitch that blue yarn, but I'm gonna put my brown yarn over. I'm gonna slip stitch and work my 3 double crochet over that chain 3 and the brown yarn so I can move it up one. Okay, and then you go ahead and work right over it. Okay, that is my last blue square. Go ahead, and you don't want to pull that brown yarn too tight, but you also don't want it sticking out. Okay, now we are making 5 brown squares, okay? So you're going to switch to your brown. And my brown is starting to get tangly here. Okay, I think I'll be okay. So that's 1. Two. 3. 4. 5. Okay, you are now done with the brown yarn. And go ahead and cut it. And you're going to make your last square for the row in blue. Okay, go ahead and slip stitch to join. Okay, I'm going to get my brown yarn out of my way here. Okay, at the end of row 41, you should have 9 stitches. Go ahead and mark these off. We started with 4 blue, we started with 3 blue, followed by 5 brown. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and we ended with 1 blue. For row 42, we are working up and we are making 8 blue squares. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Let's go ahead and do that. You're going to slip stitch to move your yarn up. One, 2, 3, 4, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Go ahead and slip stitch to join. Mark off those 8 squares. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. For row 43, we are working our way down, and you are making 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 blue squares. Go ahead and slip stitch to move your yarn over. One, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and go ahead and slip stitch to join. Okay, let's mark off those 7 squares for row 43. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. For row 44, we are working our way back up, and you are making 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 blue squares. Go ahead and slip stitch to move your yarn over. One, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 4, 6. Okay, go ahead and slip stitch to join. Okay. We just finished row 44. Let's mark off those 6 squares. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. All right, let's draw our line for row 45. We are working our way down, and we will have 5 squares. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You're going to slip stitch to move your yarn over. Okay, 1, oops. One, 2, 3, 4, 5. Slip stitch to join. Okay, let's mark off those 5 squares for row 45. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Let's draw our line for row 46. We are working our way up, and we will have 4 squares. 1, 2, 3, 4. Go ahead and slip stitch to move your yarn over. One, 2, 3, 4. Go ahead and slip stitch to join. Okay, go ahead and mark off those 4 squares for row 46. Draw your line for row 47. You're working your way down, and we will have 3 squares. So slip stitch to work your yarn over. It's 1, 2, 3. Slip stitch to join. Mark off those 3 squares. 1, 2, 3. Make your line for row 48, working up 2 blue squares. Slip stitch to move your yarn over. You guys must be excited. We're almost done. Then I'll show you how to do the border and weave in your ends. One. Two. Go ahead and slip stitch to join. One more square left. Okay, we are now making our last square, working our way down, okay? When we start our border, we'll be crocheting around this way. Okay, so I guess that would be counterclockwise. So go ahead and slip stitch to move your yarn over and make your last square. Okay, slip stitch to join. Okay. It's hard to see, but this is the front, so the right side of our graph, okay? Just like here. Have the eye patch on the right hand side, just like this. So now we are going to be working in this direction to make our border, just like I put the area here. We're going to work our way around this way, around, back up the side, and then over, okay? So don't even do any, you don't need to cut your yarn. We're just gonna start right here. So we will have to make our stitches in this corner tile later for the border. We are starting in this second square here first. And essentially what we're doing for these emoji squares that I'm making, I am just doing a simple single crochet around the border. So here is my panda square that I made, and I'll have this pattern linked in the description box below. But I just did a simple single crochet all the way around. You could do a single crochet and then go around and do another row of double crochet. If you check out the other Grafgan patterns on my website, I do have instructions in my free patterns on how to do that. But for this tutorial, I'm just doing a single round of single crochet. You're going to be making 2 single crochet in the side of each tile, and then in the 4 corners you're going to be making a single crochet, chain 1, and then another single crochet. So let's go ahead and do that together. Okay, so I'm right here. I'm just going to go ahead and make 2 single crochet in this first tile. You don't want to do it too tightly. 1, 2, and just did that in that chain 3 space. And now here I'm going to work in the if you can get into the tops of those double crochet, go ahead and do that. There's in the tops of the 2 here, or actually probably easier just to work in between those spaces. So for this square, I worked in this space and then in this space, and that makes my 2 single crochet for that tile. So I have 1, 2, 1, 2. 1, 2, 1, 2. Okay, go ahead and continue that down this side here. Okay, so I've done this side. I am now at the corner. So I've made my 2 single crochet in that space. I'm going to work into the corner here. Make a single crochet, chain 1, and then another single crochet into the same space. You don't want to do it too tightly. And then along this side, and so this side's going to look a little different because you're working from the other side of those double crochet. So just continue working into the space between them. Okay, so there's those 2 spaces. Those are your 3 double crochet. 1, 2 spaces between them. Okay, so you're going to do that all the way around. 2 single crochet into the side of each square, and then in each corner, a single crochet, chain 1, and then another single crochet. So I'm going to go ahead and let you finish that on your own so that I can show you how to weave in. Okay, so after you finish your border, the only thing left for you to do is to weave in all of your ends. So I'll just show you how to do that with one of these here. So I'm going to use this white yarn and a tapestry needle. Okay, you're going to go through your whole graph. Make sure you do both sides because you have yarn tails on both sides. And just weave it back and forth a few times through that square. And don't pull it too tight. Just weave it back and forth fairly loosely. And then you just trim them, just like that, okay? So you'll do that for all of your yarn tails after you complete the border. And then there you have it, you're done with your dog graph. Now you could make more than one of these and put them like back to back, and they could make a big pillow, or you could stitch, you know, make multiple. I'm gonna have about, I think, 6 of them available on my website, the patterns, and make a really big blanket, or you could just hang this up as wall art. There are a lot of different options. If you liked this tutorial, please subscribe to my channel and hit the notification bell so that you're notified when I make future videos. And don't forget to go head over to my website and check out all the other patterns that I have available for free there. All right, thank you guys.